I never thought I'd be the kind of dad who actually liked his daughter's boyfriend. When my daughter left for college, I honestly thought I had a few peaceful years before some random guy showed up at my house, took over the couch, ate my food, and called me bro. But apparently, I was wrong. Just 3 months into college, my daughter came home and introduced us to Ethan. And from the very beginning, I wasn't impressed. Ethan was tall, skinny, had messy hair, and somehow said the word dude in almost every conversation. He was polite, but his whole personality seemed completely different from my daughter's. She was responsible, ambitious, and always had a plan. Ethan seemed like the kind of guy who just went with the flow and figured things out later. So, as a father, I immediately became suspicious. I never treated him badly, but I definitely didn't make him feel welcome either. Whenever he came over, I kept my conversations with him as short as possible. If he asked me a question, I gave him a one-word answer. If he tried to start a conversation, I suddenly became very interested in my phone. But the funny thing was, Ethan never seemed offended. He kept smiling. He kept being polite. And he kept coming back. Then one night, everything changed. My wife had prepared a big family dinner, and Ethan came over. Everything was going perfectly until my wife and daughter realized they'd forgotten something for dessert. So they jumped in the car and went to the store. And suddenly, it was just me and Ethan. The house became painfully quiet. I was scrolling through my phone, pretending I had something important to do. Ethan was sitting across from me, staring at the table. Neither of us knew what to say. Finally, he cleared his throat and asked, "So, do you like whiskey?" I looked up at him. I simply nodded. And suddenly, his whole face lit up. He said he had a bottle his dad had given him for his birthday and asked if I wanted to try it. For some reason, I said yes. At first, it was still awkward. We poured ourselves a drink and just sat there. Then Ethan started telling me about one of his dates with my daughter. He had taken her rock climbing because he wanted to impress her. The problem? He got stuck halfway up the wall and had to be rescued by an instructor, while my daughter stood at the bottom laughing at him. I couldn't help myself. I laughed. And for the first time, Ethan laughed with me, instead of trying to impress me. Then I told him one of my own embarrassing stories. When I was dating my wife, I once entered a chili eating contest just to impress her. My brilliant plan ended with me throwing up all over a state senator's shoes. Ethan nearly fell out of his chair laughing. And somehow, that awkward evening completely changed. One drink became two. Then we stopped counting. We started talking about music, movies, college, family, relationships, and all the stupid things we'd done when we were younger. And then I discovered something I hadn't expected. Ethan wasn't lazy. He wasn't aimless. He actually had goals. He was working towards starting his own business and had a plan for his future. He simply had a different attitude toward life. He didn't waste energy worrying about things he couldn't control. And suddenly I realized I had judged him without ever really knowing him. By the time my wife and daughter returned, Ethan and I were sitting at the kitchen table, completely drunk, laughing like we'd known each other for years. We were even singing along to an old rock song. Neither of us knew the lyrics. My wife stood there looking absolutely horrified. My daughter just stared at us like she couldn't believe what she was seeing. Then Ethan looked at my wife and proudly said, "Ma'am, I love your cooking." That was the moment I completely lost it. Everyone started laughing. And from that night on, everything changed. Ethan wasn't just the guy dating my daughter anymore. He became someone I genuinely cared about. Eventually, he started feeling less like a boyfriend and more like a second son. And the best part? I still don't know exactly how he won me over. Maybe it was the whiskey. Maybe it was the embarrassing stories. Or maybe I simply needed to stop judging him long enough to actually get to know him. Because sometimes, the people we expect to dislike the most end up becoming the people we're most grateful to have in our lives.